Hello, everyone. My name is Marion with DTM Real Talk Channel. It's the channel that you can tune into, have the ability to listen to the thoughts of others about topics all over the world that touch every one of our lives. Everybody goes through basically the same thing. There is nothing new under the sun. So if you're going through, someone else has already been there. Maybe you can find hope. Maybe it's a pathway that can set you on the right road just by tuning in. So DTM Real Talk, just keeping it real. And if you like it, like us at the bottom, subscribe, and let us know just how we helped you. Just keeping it real. Nothing but love. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Our celebration of Resurrection Sunday has nothing to do with Easter eggs and chocolate bunnies. Instead, we're spending Resurrection Sunday praising God corporately through song and prayer and a message of Jesus and fellowship. All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. And it is by his great mercy that we have been born again because God raised Jesus Christ from the dead. Now we have great expectation and we have a priceless inheritance, an inheritance that is kept in heaven for you who have believed, and me, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change and decay. And through your faith, through my faith, God is protecting us by his power until we receive this salvation, which is ready to be revealed on the last day for everyone to see. So happy Resurrection Sunday. Good evening. Good evening. This is DTM Real Talk, and we're just keeping it real. And my very special guest today is, tell the good folks out there and tell them your name.
My name is Eno Harris, and I'm Miss Marion's new baby. I'm so glad to be here, Miss Marion. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I think I'm more excited than you are. And by the way, guys, pronounce your name again, my baby.
It's Eno.
Eno. And
Yes.
where are you from?
West Africa, Nigeria.
Okay, I did not know that. Yes. Well, just so you guys know, how we met was only a week ago.
Yes. Isn't that crazy? Yes.
Yes, it was a week ago. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned to you guys that I had an opportunity to minister with my baby girl. I got two. Y'all know that. Y'all know. Now I got three. How about that?
Yay.
I have two, and it was Tanya in Titan Shape. And she did a series on mental health matters. We had an amazing time. I met some powerful young women, and Eno was one of them. So what did you get out of it last week, Eno?
Oh my God, Miss Marion. It was inspiration. Just hearing you talk about, your health, being a single mom, divorce, everything, and just seeing you standing there in your full glory. It was like, what? Like, I want to be like, how would I grow? Just hearing you talk with so much experience and so much, just seeing how you loved sharing your experience with everyone in that room. Wow. Oof, it was truly moving. Yeah.
It was truly.
I was like, I have to kidnap her and keep her with me.
I got to tell you that it was truly the grace of God. Yes. Amen. So what was your takeaway, if you don't mind telling the good folks out there? What was your greatest takeaway?
First of all, I learned to ask permission. Remember, you taught me that and I used it. I learned to ask permission. But my greatest takeaway of everything is I cannot hold myself responsible for what happened to me in my past that I didn't have control over.
Amen.
That was the biggest thing in the whole conversation, things that happened to me in my past that I couldn't control was not my fault, and it was not my shame to carry.
Right. Absolutely. So let's get down to business and tell the good folks a few things. And I've shared with the purpose for our show. The purpose for this channel is that the world can see that we have the same issues you have. We just tend to handle them differently, and sometimes we don't. But
Mhm.
we have someone to give us a helping hand. We have a defense. But anyway, she's going to share with you. Let's talk about this. So how did you get to the States? When did you come to the States?
In 2014, yes.
2014, mom
I,
and dad?
sorry?
With mom and dad?
Oh no, I came alone. I'm an
Oh,
only child. Yes, I came alone. My mom is still back there. I haven't seen her since 2014. But
really?
yes, I was in a relationship with the father of my daughter, and
Uh-huh.
he was here, so I came here to him. But we hadn't had the baby yet, so it was mostly me and him for a while.
Okay. Okay. So how did you meet him?
Oh, I met him in 2003. I was in high school.
Wait, wait. Back up just a little bit because you're cutting your chin off. Just a
Oh,
tiny bit.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I met him in 2003. Is that
There you go.
better?
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
I met him in 2003. Um I was in the middle of high school and he was already done with high school trying to get into college
But you were in
back
Africa.
in Nigeria. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was so good with geography. He could draw. I don't have any artistic bone in me.
Uh-huh.
So every time they'd give us a geography assignment, because I was in a science class, and in science class we did everything, I would call him on the phone and tell him to come to my school and take the assignment home and do it for me. So
So
he would bring it back.
you was on cheating. You was cheating.
Yes. And I would always get like an A in my geography for assignments and tests, but not really the exams because he wasn't there to take the exams for me. But it
Right.
was more of like a puppy love situation, and we just kind of grew from there.
Okay. 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 So you met him in high school.
Yes.
Yes. And so how did okay, what tell that story, that journey. How did you both get over here? I'm like confused. Like people out there, okay, they met in high school. So
Yeah.
how did they get to the States?
Um, we I after I finished, we kept seeing each other, but we were hiding because my mom found out and she was stern with him. She was stern with me, a typical African mom, but we still found a way.
Uh-huh.
And
So
I
how did she respond? Don't pass that up. How did she respond?
she was angry. She was very angry. He was so scared to come around the area I stayed in because she would tell the other older women and uncles in the area, like, you see that boy? He's trying to destroy my daughter's life. Keep him away from my daughter. But he was always so persistent. And I really liked him at that time.
Uh-huh.
So I pushed my mom to put me in boarding school because I didn't want to be coming home every day. So she sent me to boarding school, which made it easier for him to come see me at boarding school.
Oh,
Yes. So he would come over the fence in my school because my school had like a big fence, and he would stand over the fence and he would talk to me, or would talk in during the midnight calls, because in Nigeria at some point after 12 a.m. you could talk for free on the phone. So we
okay.
would be on the phone from 12 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. talking.
And how did you stay awake in school?
I stayed. I did it for love.
You did it.
Well, I did it for what I thought was love at that
Yes,
time.
I
So
understand.
after I graduated, my mom sent me to school in the neighboring country, Benin Republic, and then he was schooling in Nigeria, so we lost touch. A few years ago, I came home and I was at like a store where they sell food, and
Uh-huh.
he just drove past and he saw me, parked his car in the middle of the road and ran down to me. I was like, I'm not letting you go again. I
Uh-huh.
found
Uh-huh.
you. So we started dating again. 2 years after, he told me, he said he's coming to America. So he came, and like
Okay.
9 months after, he said, you're coming with me too. So I can't be here without you. And he pulled me down this way with him too.
Oh, so he came first and then he
Yes.
sent for you. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So, okay, after you got to the States, let me ask you something. That was your first time coming to the States?
Yes. Yes.
So, what was your feeling about America versus Nigeria for the first time?
Um, I I think what stood out to me was I felt like I felt like there was no community for me. Like there was no community here. Like I said earlier, when he was coming to see me, my mom would tell our neighbors and people around the area. But
Uh-huh.
when I came to America, I realized that people would live in an apartment for 10 years and didn't know their next door neighbor.
That is
Or
absolutely
yeah, I
correct.
was like, really? Like parents were struggling to find a babysitter, but the neighbor worked from home. So those things didn't really I couldn't understand it for a while, the
Yes,
community wasn't so close. So that stood out for me.
yes. And was Dallas your first place of residence?
Yes, Oak Cliff.
Okay, Oak
Woo,
Cliff. Okay,
yes.
okay. Now you need to know that that's Texas. Let me just pause you because the good folks got to hear this. They know this already. The ones that know me, I'm from New Orleans. So in New Orleans, I didn't say Louisiana. It's totally different. New
I
Orleans,
know.
New Orleans is a whole different animal. When I say that, what you just described in your country is what you see in New Orleans. We
I've
are the
heard.
most hospitable people in the whole wide world.
I've
Okay.
heard.
You've
I've
heard,
never been, but I've heard.
I'm telling you the truth with a F. If you knock on the door in New Orleans and you need somebody to keep your baby and you working from home, that's not even a question. You
Yeah.
know, you come to New Orleans, it's at least it used to be. I mean, it's different, times are different now, people are
Yeah,
different,
the world is changing
the
everything.
world is changing, but back in our days, I mean, yeah, it was just like that. My mom, she couldn't, nobody could come to our house without eating. Before she's going in her little closet called the helping hand, she's trying to find out what if they got shoes, if they got a coat, if they,
That is nice.
if you come to New Orleans, you got community. So back to you now, okay? So because I can talk about community, I got stuff for New Orleans, you just don't know.
That's good because that was my biggest thing. I felt like, oh my God, like everyone is just so to themselves. And I would tell my friends back home, or even my mom, I said, America is such an individualistic society. Everybody's to themselves. And that was one thing I really missed about back home.
Yes, yes. So that was in 2014.
And 14 to 15, yeah.
Okay, okay. So when did you get pregnant?
Oh, I got pregnant in 2014.
Oh,
Yeah,
you went to the States
it
and
was funny.
you better not have that pregnant over there because your mom would have beat the skin.
Yeah, oh
I
Lord
already
Jesus.
know.
Oh Lord. Oh, I have another story for that.
Okay,
But
okay, okay. So you got
I,
pregnant and you call your mama. Go ahead.
I got pregnant and I had a miscarriage.
Okay.
Yes. And then we went to the doctor and we found out I had a miscarriage. So the nurse was like, you have to be careful. You had a miscarriage. You could easily get pregnant again if you know you didn't want to get pregnant. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Still doing my thing. Suddenly my period stops. And we go to the hospital and I was 3 months pregnant.
Okay. Okay.
And I was like, okay, how do we tell mom? Because, she's so far away, but I feel like she could still slap me through the phone. So how
Right.
do I tell her? And I told her, and she was so happy. She was like, you know what? You're gonna have my grandbaby. I rather add than subtract, whatever they used to say back home.
Uh-huh.
My baby, I can't wait. She was so excited.
Yeah.
And then I had the baby, and she sent me everything she could from back home
Right.
for the baby.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah.
And so your baby girl, I just saw her. She's just as cute as she could be. How
Oh,
old is
thank
she?
you.
How old
She's
is
eight.
She's
Eight.
8. Okay, okay, very well. So, okay, so are you with your boyfriend now? Are you married? Or what's up with that?
I'm not. I'm separated from my daughter's dad, but we still have a very good relationship. And then I'm also in a path for a divorce from my ex-husband.
Okay, okay, we skipped a whole lot. So when did
We
you got
we
married
gotta go
after
back.
the baby or before?
After the baby.
After the baby, you got married.
Yeah. When I came, so when I after I came, things were not how I think because it was our first time living together, we
Uh-huh.
started to see parts of each other that was not so nice.
Okay.
And it was very toxic. So the things we were fighting, it was lots of yelling, words were said that could not be taken back. And
Absolutely.
so one day I just decided, I told him one day, I said, I'm leaving. And he thought I was joking. So I said, I'm moving my things and I moved it to my friend's house. And that was another journey because he didn't want me to leave.
Right.
My daughter wanted her dad. She was used to having dad in the house. He would call angrily, say, I came back from work and my daughter didn't run to me at the door. I need you guys to come back home. But I
Uh-huh.
couldn't go home because I knew that was not the space I needed to be at that time.
Right.
And so I was alone on my own for a while, working, trying to take care of my baby. Then I met my soon to be ex husband. who is from Louisiana.
Okay.
And he was very sweet when I first met him. He
Uh-huh.
seemed really kind, but I think now that I think about it, I feel like I was in such a dark space that I
Mm.
didn't take my time to see what God was actually trying to show to me. I
Okay.
was just basking in the fact that I had somebody.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then when
Would you say that would you say that at that point you were more or less trying to look for love?
I was trying to find somebody,
Yeah,
uh, I
you were
didn't care
you were in
who.
love with the fact
Yes,
of being in
with
love
some, yes,
with somebody.
and it didn't matter who it
Yeah,
was.
I
It
got
was just somebody,
you. Okay.
and he was the nastiest. God forgive me, but the nastiest person anyone could find.
Wow.
Yeah, he was very abusive. He hit me a couple times in front of my daughter. He
Physically
was very,
abusive.
yeah, physically abusive, sexually abusive.
Wow.
He was very abusive. And
Wow.
one day I just felt like I couldn't do this anymore. If I wanted to stay in abuse, I should have stayed with my daughter's dad. There's
Yeah.
no reason why I took her out from abuse with her in her father's house and bring her to another man who's not her father, who's
Yes.
equally abusive to her mom. So one day I just woke up and I said, "You gotta go. You
Okay, so
have to go."
let me hear this. Okay, so your baby's father was abusive as well. When did you find that out? Because you guys were together, so
after after we had the baby was
uh
when I really found out. And his abuse, unlike my ex-husband, was not physical. It was more of the
emotional.
emotional and mental abuse. It
Mhm.
was the type of abuse. It was so hard to explain to people at that time what I was going through.
Right.
But if you knew me, you could see it in me that there was something wrong. But I couldn't explain it because like, okay, so what happened? Like, how would you explain this to
Yeah.
somebody? But it was so mental that till this day, sometimes I'd sit, for example, sometimes we'll get into an argument and he will say things like, because my dad was my mom left my dad
Mhm.
um when I was younger because he yelled at her one time and tried to put his hands on her and she was like, nope, and she left.
Right.
And my grandpa grabbed her and said, this is my daughter, you're not touching her.
Right.
So back home in Nigeria, there's still this little bit of stigma to single moms. It doesn't matter why you left. The fact is you left, so people look at you sideways for
Okay.
leaving. So when we would get in fights or arguments, he'll make comments like, well, the only reason why you were comfortable enough having a bastard is because you're a bastard yourself. You know, comments like that that would dig deep into
Yeah,
you.
degrading. Yeah.
Yeah, very degrading, you know. Or he would just stand up in a house and walk around singing songs in his native language, calling me a whore.
Wow.
And it's like I could just be sitting down watching a movie or talking to my friend on the phone, and he's walking around the house calling me all sorts of words in our native language. And or he'll act like he's on the phone with somebody, his
Uh-huh.
brother, and he'll be like, "Oh, she's just so frustrated and so stupid." And when I grab the phone, there's nobody on the line. He was
Wow.
just,
He
it
had
was,
issues. He had some serious issues talking in the phone. Nobody.
yeah, it was things like that. And then when things would get so heated, he'll say, "Oh, let's talk about it and resolve this." And I'll say, "Okay, so these things you said to me hurt me," and it will be, "Oh, you were just making it up." And then after a while, I started to believe that I was making some of these things up, or maybe he didn't say it that way. But in
Mhm.
my head, I kind of made it to be that way. You
Yeah.
know, I'll sit down and keep going back and forth with my
Yeah.
thoughts. Did you make this up?
You're
Did you
blaming yourself.
misunderstand?
Blaming
Yes. Did you
yourself.
miss exactly? And it was such a track record, even because he knew me for so long. And I did tell him when I was younger, I was abused. My mom is gonna watch this now. She's gonna know. I love you, mom. We'll talk about it. But I was sexually abused. And for a while, I couldn't really tell my mom. I never told my mom. She's gonna know now. But I told him.
You okay with that?
Oh yeah, it's long overdue.
Okay.
And I told him. So when we get into arguments, it was things like that he would say to me, "Oh, you're such a whore. You are giving yourself to people at a little age. What kind of a girl gets,
Wow.
this done to her when she was tender? You're a whore." So there was this shame, this disrespect laced with shame that
Mm-hmm.
he was always bringing around me.
Mm-hmm.
So even when he was being emotionally abusive to me, I didn't know how to explain it because I was really in that abyss of shame
Yes.
that it was my fault. Regardless of how it was my fault.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. Now I see why your takeaway was what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. So, when did your abuse start?
Um, 4, if I'm not mistaken. It was 4. And it started with mostly fondling, if I remember.
Was that who was that? Relative?
It was an uncle, someone I remembered as an uncle, a family member.
Uh-huh.
And it was mostly, oh, if we were like sleeping or watching TV, it would just be hands there, or
Yeah,
put
yeah,
your hands here and things like that. But it
yeah.
wasn't until I turned 6.
So where was
Uh,
mom when this was going on?
my mom would always leave me with her sister, because my mom was the sole breadwinner for her sister and
Gotcha.
her. So she was taking care of her sister and the sister's husband and the kids plus me. So
Mm-hmm.
she would go off for her business trips and leave me there, with the hope that, my sister would watch my daughter.
Right.
But when she would come back, things would have happened. But between being so excited to see my mom and seeing her be, just mom coming back, I think at first it was just, I didn't want to have that conversation with my mom. I hadn't seen my mom in two
Of course.
weeks. And
Of
then she's coming back, and that's what I want to talk to her about. And then as it continued to happen, a few family members knew about it.
What,
One of them is dead now, but they knew about it.
a
But
few of your family members or
yes, my mom's family members
mom's
knew
family?
about it.
Uh-huh.
And one person always just acted like she didn't know. But
Uh-huh.
I know she walked into a room once when something was happening to me, but she just acted like she never mentioned it to me. And
Mm.
then the other one who didn't acknowledge it to me, but kind of shamed me about it. One day I was in the shower, and I wanted to take a shower, and I took off my underwear. And that was my first time actually knowing that, puberty, I had a discharge.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
showed her, and I was like, I have it, like, what is this wetness on my panties? And she was like,
How
oh,
old were you then? How old were you then?
I was like 8 or 9.
Okay, so this person started this when you were 3 or 4?
Yes. And by 6, I'd already lost my virginity to a cousin.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was the virginity part was always being listed as a that's why I don't let my daughter play any mommy daddy game. It
Right.
was always a mommy daddy game, and I was always the mommy. Even though I was the youngest, I was always the mommy. Mommy, 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 they would always pick me. And then one day they did a game, and I think it was like list mommy and daddy game with hide and seek or something. But I
Yeah.
remember him just pulling me into the closet in the room. They had like a big
Same guy,
wardrobe.
the same
Yes,
fellow. Hmm.
yes. And he just laid down on top of me, and I felt a sharp pain. And when I felt this pain of like penetration, it had never happened to me before. I tried to push him off, but he wouldn't come off. And the crazy thing about that day is, while I was running to the bathroom, my mom was in the house that day. So I ran across from the living room to the bathroom in the next hallway to go wipe myself with the blood. And I was just so quiet.
Well,
I think that day I didn't really understand or grasp what had happened
sure,
to me. So I
sure.
just like kept quiet about it for the longest. But then after that, he never touched me again.
How old was this guy?
I would say he was 15. After that day that happened, I kind of kept my distance from her. And
Sure.
then one day I was sitting in the living room watching TV, and she came and she kind of like twisted my nipples, and she said, I'm falling so much in love with you. But something about that situation just weirded me out.
Of
For the
course.
longest, I wouldn't even let my partners touch me in my chest region, because it just, every time they touched me, I would remember that
My,
awkward perverted. Yeah.
yeah,
And it was just, and I kept thinking I was okay. I was okay until I had my daughter.
yeah.
When I had my daughter, it it came back as anxiety, depression, fear. I would sleep with my baby when her dad left to work, and I'll push her crib to the door with this fear that someone was gonna break into the room. I never, my daughter would be in the car seat at the back, and I would have to sit at the back with her, because I
Right.
was afraid that someone could jack the door open or
Yeah.
jump through the window and grab my baby. She would play with her cousins, and I'm standing right there. I'm calling her while she's playing, come sit down here with me. then I realized that I was trying to live my life through my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't healing, but I was taking it out on her, and
Mm-hmm.
she was missing out on important things in her life because mommy wasn't doing the job to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I started making the decision to speak out. Like
Right.
I
Right.
would talk about it shamelessly. I would talk about it until I
Okay, let's go
started.
back before we get into the process of your healing as it's beginning. Let's go back a little bit. Um, so all of this was going on, and you were now about 11, 12, 13, something like that.
Yeah.
And mom still had no idea.
Mom still had no idea, and mom still had no idea. Mom didn't know. My mom and I don't know why people always ask me, why didn't you ever tell your mom? I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Again, and I'm not trying to blame my mom at all. My mom really was amazing, but my mom was so strict with me.
Right.
My mom was so strict. My mom was so strict to the point where she would go to work and she would lock me in the house
Mm-hmm.
and take the key. And my friends will have to stay in the window and talk to me from the window. So my
Let me ask you this: have you ever considered the fact that your mom may have been what you call strict because of protecting you?
yeah, I
Um,
have.
and she more than likely was protecting you from something you have no idea about.
I've thought of it and I've asked her before. You know, one time we were having a conversation, I was like, "Mommy, did you ever experience something like this growing up?" And her answer would always be no.
Yeah, because
And I
because
don't know if it's
you did what you did with your daughter was repeated the same thing
yeah.
because of what
I
happened
didn't
to you.
understand that.
Oh, my crazy phone. I'm not talking to you, Bixby. Okay. Yeah. You just shared that after you had your baby, how you were so protective to
Yes.
protect her because of what happened to you. So it
Mhm.
sounds like your mom was basically doing the same
The
thing.
same thing. She
And
was.
she hadn't gotten to a point where you are as free enough to talk about it. And she carried the same shame and guilt and blame that you carried, but you're no longer carrying it now, but she still is. That's a strong
Yeah.
possibility, my
Yeah,
baby.
that's a strong possibility
Yeah.
because yeah,
Yeah.
that's a strong possibility because my mom is one of those people that will die with her secrets and her pain. So that's a
Absolutely.
very
That's what
strong
they did back in the
Understand that.
days. If this phone stopped talking to me, telling me stuff, okay. All right. But so okay, so all that was going on, and I'm trying to see where you're taking us. So you're 13, 14. What's going on now? 15. Where are you now?
By the time I was 13, 14, I was in boarding school away from everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so all this happened before you went to boarding
Oh
school.
yeah, all this happened before I went to boarding school.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because so the way school is in Nigeria is by the time you're 9, you're in high school.
I got you.
Yeah. So by the time I was 9, I was in my first stage of high school. We have 3 different classes in high school. So by the time I was 14, 15, I graduated high school at the age of 15.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, by the time I was 14, I was already in boarding school away from all of that.
Right. That answers a lot of questions for me. But anyway, because a lot of times Nigerians come over here and the States and they get jobs that people Americans have been trying to get forever. And they not only get them, but they excel in them. And a lot of Americans are intimidated by that. I'm just keeping it real,
Yeah,
intimidated by that. And they
I
say
think it's just the education.
that's exactly right. And we say things like, oh, they come over here and take over. Well, no, the education system is a little
Is
better
different.
and different in Nigeria than it is in America. And
Yeah.
so that has to be faced by American society, which we don't always like to admit. But anyhow, so I know the good folks want to hear what happened after you reached that age, that you uh, got married and present and in a divorce, going through a divorce. I want to know, how did you tunnel through all the things that you just told us, all the things that you just shared with us? What kind of emotional or physical things happened to you during your healing period or in the process of your healing? And so, with that said, this is DTM Real Talk, y'all, and we're coming back next week. We just doing what?
Yes.
We are
Yeah.
keeping it real. Are we?
Yes.
We'll see y'all next
Yes.
week. Thanks for watching DTM Real Talk. Be sure to join us for more conversation. And oh yeah, don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe while you're there.